Okay, I think we will get started now. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the public information session. My name is Laura Hamalecki. I'm with the Public Works Department with Oxford County. As you know, the county is currently seeking public feedback on the future of our curbside collection program. So tonight we're going to be providing a bit of information on our current curbside collection programs, outline some of the drivers that are influencing the future of our program, and provide some details on potential changes that we're seeking feedback on. After that, we'll have an opportunity to answer any questions from attendees. I do want to note that this evening we have our Oxford County Warden, Marcus Ryan, joining us as a guest speaker. We also have our project team with us, which consists of our Director of Public Works, David Simpson, our Manager of Transportation and Waste Management Services, Frank Gross, our Supervisor of Waste Management Services, Pam Antonio, and our Coordinator of Waste Management Services, Andrea Coverdale. So before we actually get into the presentation, I just wanted to outline a few housekeeping items for this meeting. So as an attendee, you'll note that your microphone has been disabled for this meeting. We are recording this information session, so we will be posting it on our project website, which you'll see noted at the bottom of this slide, along with the presentation slide deck. We are going to be holding off on answering any questions until we've completed the presentation. If you would like to submit a question at any point in time, please do so by typing it into the chat function here in WebEx. The icon for that should be located on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. You might have to first click on the icon that has the three little dots and then select the chat icon. We do have a hard stop tonight at 8 o'clock, so we're going to do our best to get through any questions that we receive. Given the time constraint, we're going to try to focus our time on mostly just questions, but we do want to note that we do welcome any comments and encourage you to submit them through the survey or through the comment form on our project website. And then lastly, just also want to note that we are still seeking feedback until April 30th. So we do encourage residents to visit our project website to complete the survey or to submit any questions or comments. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to David Simpson, our Director of Public Works.
Great, thanks very much, Laura. As the waste authority for this region across all of our 8 area municipalities, Oxford County Public Works is seeking public feedback on a number of proposed changes to our curbside collection program, as Laura alluded to. We've had a considerable amount of interest into introducing a potential new green bin program, or what's also known as a source separated organics program. So we will be describing that in a bit more detail tonight in terms of what that would look like, what types of materials and food waste would be accepted with something like that. The other area we're looking at in terms of potentially further optimizing our current waste collection practices is all and everything to do with our current garbage collection process. So here I'm specifically referring to the black bag or garbage, if you will. One other area that can add a bit of confusion to any curbside waste collection program is how waste is managed on statutory holidays. So we will be touching a little bit on what that entails and what some solutions to that could look like. Some other aspects that we're looking at here as well is the potential application of using what are known as clear garbage bags versus opaque garbage bags, along with the idea of potentially introducing a limit to the number of garbage bags that could be set out to the curb at any one time. And a lot of those last 2 points have to do with just how we can further increase our waste diversion from landfill, and more importantly, start to modify our behavior change in terms of how much waste we actually generate as residents and businesses across the county. So to Laura's point earlier, there's been a lot of work done on preparing and administering a survey to get all public feedback on all of these items. And as Laura mentioned, that's already posted on our Speak Up Oxford webpage. That survey will still stay live until about April 30th. To date, we've had tremendous response to that survey, over 3,600 responses. Certainly, we'd like to continue to get more responses, including anyone that's also participating tonight that hasn't taken the survey. Please definitely do that at the end of the presentation, because we're always looking for any general feedback, specific feedback, and comments today with respect to our current and proposed practices when it comes to waste collection. So on that, I'm going to pass it over to our warden, Ryan, who's going to relate a little bit about the waste collection program to a number of the county's strategic initiatives. So over to you, warden.
Thank you, David, and thank you, Laura, and good evening, everybody. I first want to start with sort of asking ourselves the question, why are we considering changes to our curbside collection program? David's just gone through some of the specifics of what we're going to consider, but I think it's important to ask ourselves why we're doing that, and frankly, important that I give residents an answer as to why. So we are renewing our contract for curbside collection 2026, and that's a change, and a change is always an opportunity to look for opportunities for continuous improvement or efficiency. So that means potential improvements to the services that you get as residents, and also efficiencies in terms of what that service costs us to deliver to you. So we have a new strategic plan that your county council that you elected a year and a half ago passed, and it tries to speak to, broadly speaking, what do our residents want Oxford County to be like in the 5, 10, 15, 20 years to come. And certainly solid waste collection fits in that. Obviously, it fits in Pillar 2, which is enhancing environmental sustainability, preserving and enhancing our natural environment, reducing waste generation and disposal, and maximizing resource recovery to promote a circular economy, moving us towards our zero waste goal. But also, and perhaps less obviously, pillar number 1, promoting community vitality, sustainable infrastructure and development, optimizing asset management and preventive maintenance for aging and expanding infrastructure, which really means if we can use the landfill more efficiently and effectively, the less waste we put in it, not only is that good for the environment, despite how well we try to look after it with respect to the environment, what's even better than a well-operated landfill is less stuff in the landfill. And the more effectively we use it, the more efficiently we use it, the less stuff we put in it, we can put off the day where we have to expand it or add to it, which costs a lot of money. So then also pillar number 3, fostering progressive government. Assess and continually explore opportunities to establish effective and efficient service delivery levels, which we've already talked about tonight, and models and considering expected growth and community needs. As we all know, Oxford County is growing, which means we have to make best use of the things that we already use now before we have to expand them, as I've said already. And then lastly, financial sustainability. Prioritize long-term financial planning and risk management, including evaluation of the full life cycle costs of projects and assets. It costs a lot of money to have a truck drive around and collect waste, whether that's garbage recycling or potentially a green bin. But it also costs a lot of money to operate a landfill. And a cost that is largely invisible to a lot of residents is the cost of the end of life of a landfill. And when we have to either expand that or replace it, costs a lot of money. So when we can put that off as much as possible, that adds to our long-term financial sustainability, which results in less tax pressures for all of us, and potentially, at the same time, better service in terms of waste collection and better for the environment. So in order to do all of that, we need to hear from you. As David said, as Laura said, we need to know what residents who use these services like about the current service, what they don't like, changes they'd like to see in the new service, and how they value and prioritize those things. So we need to hear from you on this so that we can best understand that, and then our staff will know how to put this out to tender for other companies to quote us on what the work is and how to advise council on what we should consider in a new service in 2026. So at this point, happy to turn it over to Frank and Pam, who are going to highlight more details about what is being considered. And then later on in the evening, we'll be asking your questions of ourselves and giving you some answers so we can give you that feedback, and hopefully you can better understand it. I would really encourage you, the people who are joining tonight obviously are engaged in this and want to tell us what they think of the service and what they hope for the future service. I would really encourage you to talk to your friends and neighbors and get them to go online to Speak Up Oxford and complete this survey as well, because we need to hear from as many people as possible. So at that point, I'll turn it over to Frank and Pam. Thanks.
Thank you, Warden Ryan. I'm Frank Gross, Manager of Transportation and Waste Management Services, and good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining our public meeting. The first several slides that I'm going to speak to will provide some background information on the county's current curbside collection program. I'll also speak to some of the just some further details on the regulatory changes that we spoke of already that are influencing potential changes to the county's collection program, and then some of the studies that we've completed already that are being used to support development of a county residential organics or a green bin program. So as you've heard, the county is responsible for providing waste management services for the 8 area municipalities in Oxford County, and that includes curbside collection of residential garbage, large items collected once per year, and the current Blue Box program. The City of Woodstock and the Township of Southwest Oxford provide collection services in their respective municipalities on behalf of the county. And in the other 6 area municipalities, collections provided through a third party under contract with the county. Garbage collection in the county is a user fee system where revenue from bag tags is used to pay for the cost of garbage collection and disposal. It is a common misconception or maybe a misunderstanding where residents feel that they are being charged twice for garbage, where they feel that their taxes pay for it as well as then they have to buy bag tags. But that's not the case. Tax revenue is not used for the garbage collection program. It's fully funded from the revenue that's collected from bag tags. Whereas the Blue Box program is partially funded from tax revenue and partially funded from revenue from the sale of recycled material. Next slide, please, Laura. The county's current organics program includes diversion of residential brush, leaf, and yard waste, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with that program. Residents can drop off their yard waste at one of 11 yard waste depots located throughout the county. From there, that material is transported to the Oxford County Waste Management Facility in Salford, where that material is composted, and then it's sold for use in gardening and landscaping products. Next slide, please, Laura. County also promotes the reduction of food and other residential organic waste through the use of backyard composters and green cones, although we understand this may not be a viable option for everyone. Next slide. So currently within the county, there's some varying collection scenarios. We wanted to explain those a little bit. So in the 6 municipalities that are currently served by the county's contractor, garbage and single stream recycling is collected on a 5 business day cycle. So co-collection means garbage and recycling is picked up at the same time in the same truck, and single stream recycling is simply means that all of the blue box material goes into the same box or the same container. And collection is provided on stat holidays currently under the county's current contract, except on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Southwest Oxford has a similar collection program where garbage and recycling is co-collected, but it's collected on a 6 business day cycle. So that means a resident's collection day changes every week, and there's no pickup on statutory holidays or on weekends. Within the City of Woodstock, similar to a 5 business day cycle for garbage collection, but recycling is collected bi-weekly, and it's a 2-stream program. So that means residents have to separate their recycling into 2 streams. So containers in one box, and then papers or fibers in another box. And the City of Woodstock does not collect on statutory holidays. So This is similar to a 5-day where typically your collection is the same day every week, unless there's a stat holiday, and then you have an alternate day. Next slide, please. So we talked about some of the regulatory changes that are influencing changes to curbside collection program, and one of the main ones is the Blue Box program. So under the new Blue Box regulation and the producer responsibility framework, municipalities will no longer be responsible for the collection and processing of the Blue Box material. So that's a significant change to the service that municipalities have typically provided. So instead of a municipal service starting January 1st, 2026, that service will be provided through producers. And what producers mean are those that manufacture packaging material and those companies that use that packaging material for containment and shipping of their products. So under the regulation, those producers are responsible for managing and collecting Blue Box material, and that is expected to be done through private contractors. So private contractors will provide that curbside collection service to residents the same as they've always received, but it'll be by a private contractor that's working on behalf of those producers. Next slide, please. Another provincial legislative requirement, the Food and Organic Policy Statement that was released in 2018 requires municipalities of a certain size to divert up to 50% of residential organic waste from landfills. So as this relates to Oxford County, this means at a minimum that a green bin program is likely going to be required for Woodstock, and it'll be required for Woodstock and likely required for Tillsonburg as Tillsonburg grows. As part of that too, a potential landfill ban of organic waste is also anticipated in Ontario, possibly as early as 2030. Next slide, please. At the excuse me. At the federal level, as part of the Federal Climate Action Plan, the federal government's undertaking various initiatives to reduce methane emissions that contribute to greenhouse gases. Municipal landfill sites are identified as being responsible for almost a quarter of Canada's methane emissions. And some of these federal initiatives are aimed at capturing methane that's currently being produced from landfills, as well as diverting organic waste to prevent any future emissions, and diverting that organic waste for beneficial reuse, such as renewable natural gas and compost material. So implementation of a county green bin program would further support these federal initiatives. Next slide, please. So the warden spoke about the county strategic plan. So at a local level, waste diversion and resource recovery supports the environmental sustainability goals that are established in the county strategic plan to reduce waste generation and disposal through the zero waste plan. So diverting organics from the landfill can reduce methane emissions, recover the valuable resources for renewable energy, and then ultimately extend the life of the county's landfill. Next slide, please. So in support of developing a county green bin program, in 2021, a countywide audit of residential garbage was completed. And it found that over half of the black bag from residential garbage contained organic material. And you can see from the chart here that in the urban areas shown in blue, it was just over 60%, whereas in the rural areas, just slightly less at 50%. And then generally countywide, 60% of what was found in the black bag is organic material and potentially could be diverted. That audit also found that approximately 10% of the black bag contents contained material that could have been recycled. So blue box material, yard waste, scrap steel, and other items such as that are still making its way into the black bag. Next slide. So another study that was completed, again, in support of development of a countywide green bin program was an organics resource recovery technology feasibility study. And the purpose of that study was to evaluate, excuse me, various technology concepts for processing organic waste that would be collected through a green bin program. The preferred technology that was identified in the study was aerobic composting as part of a county-owned facility that would be combined with the current composting facility that's used for yard waste at the Oxford County Waste Management Facility. Next slide. So the findings of the Organics Resource Recovery Technology Study were presented to Council just this past October. And Council approved in principle the use of composting technology as part of a county-owned facility, but for future evaluation and future implementation consideration. As part of that report to Council, Council further directed staff, I think the warden touched on that, to develop draft procurement documents for an organics curbside collection program, as well as for utilizing a third-party organics processing facility until we can further evaluate a future county-owned facility. And then as part of that, Council directed staff to undertake a 6-week public engagement campaign to get feedback on these proposed changes. So I'm going to pass it over to Pam now, and she's going to speak in more detail on the public survey and then some of the proposed changes that are included.
Thanks, Frank. So before we make any significant change to the curbside collection program, we wanted to better understand people's views on things like how they're currently managing their food waste, whether or not they would be interested in participating in a green bin program, whether a green bin program should be offered countywide or just in urban areas. And we wanted to also find out what people's thoughts were on implementing some industry best practices, such as requiring clear plastic bags for garbage collection and limiting the number of bags that could be placed at the curb. Next slide. In Oxford County, we know that at least, as Frank had said previously, at least one municipality will be required to offer a green bin program, if not two for sure. And we wanted to find out, more specifically, whether or not the rural areas would be, anyone living in the rural communities would be interested in participating in a green bin program. So regardless of whether or not we offer the program, Curbside Organics program, to one municipality or all 8, there will be a startup cost that will include the cost to purchase a bin, deliver the bin, the green bin, as well as a kitchen caddy that people can use to put their organics in from cooking, and then they can transport that to the larger bucket for storage until it's their collection day. Next slide, please. As mentioned by Frank, in the 2021 black bag audit, it identified that more than 50% of the garbage bag consisted of food organics. So that 50% equates to about 5,200 to 9,500 tons of organic material generated by Oxford County on an annual basis. By diverting that material from landfill, we can extend the life of our landfill site by 10 years and also reduce the amount of methane gas that is being produced. Next slide, please. So the county is seeking feedback on whether the frequency of garbage collection can be reduced with the implementation of a green bin program. So with more than 50% of the garbage bag being diverted through a green bin program, we know then that it will take longer for a resident to fill up a garbage bag. And we understand that the odor issue that we normally have in our garbage bag will be reduced significantly in the absence of the organics. So by reducing the amount of garbage, the frequency of our garbage collection, we can then better optimize our trucks, achieve better collection cost efficiencies, and reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Next slide. One of the collection scenarios that we're considering is a 5 business day collection cycle. So in this scenario, weekly green bin collection would occur and bi-weekly garbage collection would occur. Collection would occur on the same weekday every week, except for when a staff holiday occurred. Then everyone's collection day would shift ahead by 1 day. That's illustrated in the chart in front of you by week 3. Monday is the holiday, so there'd be no collection on that day. Therefore, everyone advances 1 day, resulting in Friday collection occurring on Saturday for that particular week. All right, next slide, please. The other collection scenario that we're looking at is a 6 business day collection cycle. In this situation, organics and garbage are co-collected together, resulting in 42 pickups annually. Thing with this is that every week your collection day will change, and then there won't be any collection on your stat holiday. So in the image in front of you, there are 6 colors: orange, blue, yellow, green, gray, and purple. That represents each collection zone. So if you happen to live in the orange collection zone, week 1 would be, you would have Monday collection. Then week 2, your collection would move to Tuesday. Week 3, your collection would move to Wednesday. Now, week 4, we happen to have a stat holiday. So instead of your collection falling on Thursday, it now moves to Friday. Anytime you have collection on a Friday, you will automatically go 10 days before your next collection cycle. So in this example, your next collection cycle would be in week 6. It would be on Monday. And that pattern would repeat itself throughout the entire year. And so this is a system that's currently in place with the Township of Southwest Oxford, and it seems to be working reasonably well for them. Next slide. So one of the things that we're interested in learning is whether or not we're trying to avoid statutory holiday collection. We know that whether collection occurs on a Saturday or on the stat holiday itself, our participation rates and our material tonnages that we collect reduce by about 50%. We also know that collection on these days will often conflict with a community event or parade. And that causes some health and safety issues. It's difficult, frustration, I guess, for the event organizers, having to deal with a collection truck driving down the road while they're setting up for the event. If the collection crews are not able to get the material off the road quickly enough, then they're having to deal with the public coming in, children running around, lots of parked cars. So you can imagine what some of the safety issues are in situations like this. Now, the same 2 municipalities in the county are sharing the majority of the statutory holiday collections. So by moving to one of the other collection scenarios, all the municipalities share in a stat collection, would be affected by stat holiday collection. And lastly, we know from other municipalities that there's a better job retention for curb collection workers when they're not having to work the stat holiday. And it's more beneficial to us to keep the same drivers collecting the routes. That's where you get your consistency in how the program is delivered and improve customer service. Next slide, please. So one of the questions that we're hoping to obtain some clarification on is whether or not we should be considering offering the green bin program in urban and or rural areas. So we know in urban areas, it's a good situation. It would be very feasible due to the higher densities. And we also know that people generally living in the urban areas don't necessarily have the space available to take care of their organics themselves. In the rural areas, we know that the cost to provide collection, organics collection, increases significantly in comparison to the amount of material handled. We know that many rural households will be more apt to deal with their organics themselves on their property. So hopefully through this survey, we'll get a better idea of whether or not we need to be considering offering this program in the rural areas. Next slide, please. So now we move on to industry best practices and the use of clear plastic bags. We know that 11% of the garbage bag from the 2021 audit contained blue box materials, and another 50 to 60% of the bag consisted of organics. It's a substantial amount of material that could be diverted from landfill. And industry best practices have indicated that the use of clear plastic bags will promote recycling and the diversion of organics from landfill. Residents, as Frank alluded to before, would be allowed to use a privacy bag each week in their collection bags. And so through this survey, we're hoping to get some feedback from the residents on their thoughts on implementing such a program within the county. It would be a very good way to catch some low-hanging fruit as far as the amount of divertibles that are currently going in the bag could be captured. Next slide. We're also inquiring about bag limits. Many municipalities across Ontario have limit the amount of bags that can be placed at the curb at any one time. And we're curious to see what our residents think about implementing a policy like this. And if we were to implement such a policy, what would they consider to be an acceptable bag limit? Would it be 1 bag every week, 2 bags every week, 3 bags every week? So we're hoping to flush out that information as well. Next slide. So our next steps is when the survey closes on April 30th, we'll summarize the survey results, and we will bring a report forward to County Council in May that not only summarizes survey results, but also takes into consideration several curbside collection scenarios based on the information that we've received. And upon Council's direction, we hope to be able to go out for begin the procurement process in June and have that end in September, allowing us to report back to County Council in October, requesting authorization to award a curbside collection contract. And that's all that we have for tonight. I'll turn it over to you, Laura.
Great, thanks everybody. So we do have quite a bit of time left now for any questions. Just a reminder that if you would like to submit a question to our project team, you can do so by typing it into the chat function. And again, that icon is located in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. So I see that throughout the presentation, we did get some questions submitted. So I'm going to start at the top here. So the first one is, will there be only one contractor collecting blue box material in the municipalities on behalf of the producers, and who will coordinate those schedules?
Thanks, Laura. So I'll start with an answer there. So our understanding is it'll be one prime contractor who will collect in Oxford County, although there are provisions that will allow that prime contractor to subcontract out some of that work, but ultimately that prime contractor is responsible. And as far as the schedule goes, the contractor will be responsible to meet regulatory requirements. So it is established in the regulation. I believe at a minimum, they have to provide collection biweekly. And it'll be part of a common collection system that is established by the producers represented by Circular Materials, who is managing the common collection program on behalf of most of the producers. And Pam, I don't know if you have anything further to add or.
No, I
If
think
you-
you did. You covered everything.
Great, thank you. David, anything to add or?
No, that's being on it. And I guess the other point is, and all and everything related to the future level of service will be purely dictated by that one primary producer, if you will. So at that point, it's no longer under the discretion of municipalities. It's completely transitioned to a third-party producer.
Great, thank you. We have another one here. Is there a current plan to capture the gas produced at the Oxford County landfill for either power production or RNG?
So Laura, maybe I can kick that one off, and then Frank and Pam, feel free to jump in. But certainly as part of our multi-year renewable energy action plan out to the year 2032, we are actively looking at any opportunity for biogas harvesting, such as the application that's being posed here, where, as noted earlier, with the organic content going to landfill, there are methane gas emissions that could potentially be captured and harvested and converted either into power generation or derived into a renewable natural gas option. So those concepts are certainly on the radar of our energy team, something we'll be looking at over the next handful of years and validating whether or not there is a feasibility project ready to go. I know some of the initial findings are that there's seemingly a sufficient volume of methane biogas that's being generated by the landfill that would be cost effective to harvest. And then secondly, the real key is what is the composition of that biogas that's being harvested, and is it really suitable for energy conversion or conversion into renewable natural gas? So certainly a real opportunity there, something that the county will be continuing to focus on and really validate its long-term application.
Pam or Frank, did you have anything to add to that?
Nothing further to add?
Nothing on my end.
Great. Okay, next question here. What was the cost per ton anticipated for the aerobic composting as proposed?
So again, maybe
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, David, go ahead.
go ahead, Frank.
I was going to say, I did look at the council report from this past October, and those costs were included for that technology, the aerated or aerobic composting. The life cycle cost was identified as $190 per ton, and that's all in, including capital costs, upfront capital costs. Over a 20-year period, operation and maintenance, and annual operating costs there. So, and yeah, sorry, David, if you had anything further to add there.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Perhaps we could actually, when we post the notes, we could provide the actual council report number. B, I just wanted to provide some context to the status quo right now, where of that 60% organic content that's in the garbage black bags right now and is being landfilled, the equivalent cost per ton for our baseline of essentially doing nothing is in the order of magnitude of $100 to $120 per ton. So obviously with the collection and composting method for organics, it is obviously more costly than the current state, but it's also the cost of doing the right thing, if you will. And further, we may very well not have a choice not to remove the organics from garbage as well. So we fully expect that that regulatory change is coming, and that will drive that necessary requirement for an increased cost to, again, not only collect the organics at curbside, but also manage its processing and get it converted into a viable end product as which that aerobic composting method can drive.
Great. Thank you to our participant for those questions. I still do want to encourage anybody else participating this evening to go ahead and submit some questions if you have any. In the meantime, I might just put it out to the project team. We've been, oh, sorry. Okay, so we do have a follow-up here. So in my view, the issue is not so much urban versus rural participation in organics collection and processing. It will be single family versus multifamily in the urban areas. The challenge will be how to service the multifamily with organics collection.
I can jump in there too. Yeah, certainly the resident is correct that there are certain challenges when you look at collection within a multi-residential apartment or building within a larger urban area. That's not to say that technology doesn't exist, that those challenges could be overcome, but I would totally agree that it comes with its own unique challenges when you're looking at multi-residential units, and certainly those take a little bit more effort by the collector in terms of harvesting those materials and really educating those residents that live in the multi-residential units. So certainly not uncommon to any and all other municipalities that have a green bin program in place. There's a lot of research and best management practices already well known when it comes to kind of maximizing that collection within a multi-residential facility.
Thank you, David. I was going to mention that through the survey and through the question and comment field on our project webpage, we have been receiving some really great questions from some of our residents. So I was just going to ask the project team if they thought we might want to maybe pull up a couple of those that we've received.
Sure.
Okay, I can access them here. So one question is, where will organic waste be treated? Is the land already owned by the county? And what will happen to the organic waste after it's been processed or composted?
So yeah, I'll start with that one. So under the development of a potential county-owned facility, the intent would be to expand the county's current compost facility at the Oxford County Waste Management Facility in Salford, so that the organic waste collected through a green bin program would be commingled then with the brush, leaf, and yard waste, and similar to as we're currently doing. We would produce high quality compost then that would be sold to vendors for use in making landscaping, gardening products, as well as other soil amendment uses. In the short term, we would look at utilizing a third-party processor for the organics. So there are some local third-party companies that are currently accepting organic waste from green bin programs. Locally, Stormfisher, that material is treated at their facility in Drumbo, and then it's transported to their facility in London, where they're producing renewable natural gas, and they're feeding that directly into the Enbridge transmission line, as well, I believe, as they are generating electricity too. And then Convertus, that is nearby in London, they're using it as compost material, so it's being field applied as soil amendment. Pam, anything further to add on that, or David?
No, the only other thing I would mention is, so we're fortunate to have two facilities very close to us. We have some other facilities that are within an hour of of the county, which is good. Because come 2026, there will be a lot of municipalities competing for these locations.
Right.
Great, thank you both. Another question here that we've received is, with recycling transferring over to producers, will I see a reduction in my taxes?
So, yeah, so there will be a savings to all municipalities where they'll no longer have to provide the blue box program. However, we expect that those savings will then be utilized for implementation of a green bin program.
Thank you. Let's see here. Another one that we had previously received is, how will pests and odor from organic waste be controlled?
Pam, how about you take that one?
Sure. So the same, instead of the odor being in your garbage bag, it's now going to be transferred to the green bin. And the green bins that are supplied in an organics program is designed to make it more challenging for raccoons and other animals to open up the lid. And these containers also have locking mechanism on it that makes it challenging for the animals to open. And lastly, with use of the green bin program, you'll be using a compostable bag to place your material in. And so the odor will also be captured by being enclosed in that plastic bag. So you really shouldn't see any increase in the amount of critters trying to access your organics. It's just transferring it from one collection container to another collection container.
Great, thank you. I'll throw another one out here. Will the use of Herbie Kirby, which I'm not even sure what that is, or large carts be allowed?
Do you want me to take that one as well?
Sure, go ahead, Pam.
Sure. So Herbie Kirby's, just for everyone, is just like a very large tote that has a lid on it, and it's on wheels. And it's I can't even think of the size of that tote, but anyways, it's considerably, it's a good size collection container. That has only been used in the city of Woodstock, and I don't even know if they still offer that. But with that said, at this time, the county is exploring whether or not we should consider doing some form of cart collection, because any container of that size does require some sort of automating tipping system to be in place. So in our current system, no, you would not be able to use that size of container. In our new system, it will be explored. I don't know if we'll be going down that avenue as of yet, but I know that the trend is starting to happen with municipalities looking at using more of an automated system.
Thank you, Pam. I see that we have another question here from one of our WebEx participants. So has a waste stream characterization been undertaken with an identification of what will qualify as SSO? Specifically, what is the current thinking about diapers, plastic bags, pet and animal waste?
Yeah, so definitely the waste audit that was completed in 2021 provided a detailed waste characterization of what's in the black bag, and that included some of the non-food waste organics like diapers and the other things mentioned here, as well as sanitary products. So I think we are seeking feedback through the survey, although some of the items are problematic, especially diapers, where the majority of a diaper will end up as waste. So there are companies that can or will accept diapers, although basically you pay for that cost because they have to screen it out, and then that becomes waste that needs to get disposed of at the landfill site. So they are problematic. Plastic bags, again, too, compostable bags are better than regular plastic bags, and they can be screened out. Again, you pay for that, and it causes operational issues. Pet and animal waste, similarly, typically because that ends up in a plastic bag. So I guess we're giving it consideration, but expecting that those items won't be part of a county SSO program, sorry. And Pam, I don't know, and David, if you have anything further to add on that one.
Yeah, I guess the only other point is obviously we're doing quite an in-depth municipal scan across Ontario to understand what other organic collection programs are accepting or not accepting as acceptable organics, if you will. And I can say the lion's share municipalities do not include diapers as part of their organics collection, largely for the reason Frank mentioned, is that in most cases, it tends to be screened out and actually sent back to landfill anyways. So it's actually not achieving that end objective of diversion, if you will. Beyond that, there is a bit of a mix in terms of which municipalities accept pet and animal waste. It was a fraction of what was contained in the black garbage bags right now. May or may not be included in our ultimate acceptable organics collection matrix. But to Frank's point, we'll continue to review that in detail and have specific proposals for council to consider in that regard.
Great, thank you. I'm not seeing any further questions at this time. I guess maybe I'll just put it back out to the project team if they had any last kind of final words, or if the warden had anything further he might want to say.
I'll say a couple words to wrap up when the project team's done, if you want, Laura.
Sure.
Well, if it's all right, I wouldn't mind saying a few things. I have just been so pleased with the response level that the survey has received. We never imagined that we'd have 3,400 survey responses come in. It's going to take some time to get through those responses, particularly the comments, but they are providing us with some valuable information that is will help us to bring forward a recommendation to council that I think will be reflective of what the community is looking at. And as I think it was just mentioned, we are doing a very in-depth municipal scan of municipalities that are similar to Oxford County and have a similar rural and urban mix. And again, we're finding that information very valuable in identifying lessons learned when implementing an organics program, but also identifying how they're running the program and how receptive people were initially in the implementation. So again, I really appreciate all the responses from the residents. And for those of you tonight that have attended, we thank you for that, for your participation.
Yeah, and same on my end. Very surprised and pleased to see the responses to the survey, and again, yeah, appreciate those that attended this evening. Thank you.
I may just jump in before the warden concludes, but yeah, as far as Oxford County Public Works goes, this is a really exciting time for our project team and the community. There's not many times in your career you get a chance to work on such an exciting program as this, and the opportunity to really make a meaningful difference in furthering our landfill diversion really resonates with our team. We've got the benefit that a lot of other municipalities have gone out already with green mint programs, and we can learn from their best management practices and their service excellence there, to which hopefully we can apply here at Oxford. And to the warden's point earlier, I truly believe we've got a council that's quite committed to doing the right thing from an environmental lens. And yeah, we're very eager to get more information in front of council later this year in terms of making some concrete decisions towards the potential implementation of a future green mint program. So on that, I'll pass it over to the warden for final comments.
Yeah, I think Pam and Frank and David stole my speaking notes. That's basically what I was going to say. I would just highlight to residents watching this now or later that you can see from the questions that were asked here and the answers that staff had that a lot of work has gone into this already. And in some cases, staff have the answers to the questions that we all have as residents. And in other cases, they have partial answers, they have the beginnings of answers, but the work that we're going to do as a county to develop those answers and inform a decision by council at some point in the next year, staff are going to present a report to county council, and I'm going to be asked to make a decision on how we proceed with that. And as you heard tonight in that dialogue, these are great questions, they are great answers. We need to keep doing this. So I would just really encourage residents, obviously those that are here tonight are engaged, questions were asked. But if you have more questions, you know, if you're anything like me, tomorrow you're going to think of a great question that you wish you asked tonight. Go on to Speak Up Oxford and look for this and put those questions in there. Staff will be taking those and they will inform the service that you get when it comes to solid waste collection in Oxford County. And the better informed we are, the better that service will be. So thanks again to staff and especially to all the residents who joined on tonight to ask us questions and give us their input.
All right, I think that concludes our meeting then. As everybody mentioned, thank you for joining us, especially as I understand there's a very important hockey game going on right now. Just a reminder, we still have our survey open until April 30th, and we are happily accepting questions and comments through our project webpage. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us that way. Or alternatively, I have my contact information here on the slide if you'd prefer to just reach out directly. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you all.